I'm super jealous of. I want to go to Japan and look
All
at all
right.
the
So
guitar
anyway,
markets.
the Line 6 Helix HX Stomp was announced today. I believe
Today
that is
being
the
Thursday.
Thursday. I believe that is the full title of the item. This is, yeah, it's the HX Stomp. So this is basically Line 6 taking their Helix system and putting it in what is effectively like
a double-sized
an M5
pedal.
Yeah, it's like an M5. If you guys remember the Line 6 M5, the thing is the M5 was just a modeler, right? Or was
This
just
looks
effects only, right?
Yeah, this looks more conveniently sized to me than the M5 did.
Yeah,
Because it looks like it's normal pedal thickness. The M5 is super thick, which made it awkward to put anywhere on your board. I wonder how much power this thing needs.
I'm sure it uses its own thing because
that was part of my problem with the M5 is that the plug stuck straight out the back and didn't have a right angle.
It does say, it's 9 volts DC, but it's 3 amps.
Yeah.
That's
a lot of amps.
Like 2 one spots.
Yeah. So it's going to need its own brick. Which isn't surprising. It's a computer, you know?
But so
I'm surprised it doesn't have the IC plug.
Here's the thing, right? Like it's 300.
It probably has a power brick that you have to stick under your board that's like that big.
Right. So it has 300 Helix amps, cabs, and effects. You can run up to 6 banks simultaneously, I believe.
Well, I think it has all the Helix stuff in it. It's just a Helix, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a small version of a Helix. It has a bunch of Line 6 legacy effects, capacitive sensing foot switches with color-coded LCD rings.
Oh, you've used a Helix, right?
No.
Oh, you haven't? But don't they have one at your church?
Yeah, I don't use it. I have my own stuff, bro.
Do you know what it means by the capacitance?
Doesn't that just mean it's like touch, like pressure sensitive?
It's like one of those lamps you turn on by touching it.
Right.
So like they've got the foot stumpers there, but if you touch it with your finger, then it gets into, like you see in this picture here, you've got the twin harmony, the delay, and the tap tuner, and it corresponds to these 3 foot switches.
Right.
So you would tap that with your finger, and it would go into all the settings for that, versus you stepping on it, which would just engage it and turn it on and off.
Okay, so this is off topic a bit.
Drop it on me, man.
The only thing have you used a Helix?
I've used it in passing. Like I used it in Germany, and I used it. I'm pretty sure that's what David Hill has, right? I think he was showing it to me at Sweetwater.
That sounds right. So the only thing I know about the Helix is my worship leader has told me several times, if you ever want to use it, just let me know. I'll let you use it. And I'm like, I've got like a 10, 11 pedal board. So I'm like, well, I've already put this thing together.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to run with it. And then one of our friends used it one time and he goes, that thing's a piece of garbage. And it comes back to like...
It was like his user experience, right?
Yeah, because there was an issue with like, I think the volume pedal kept like segregating itself from everything else, so it would just not work. And
interesting.
So like the volume would like just die in the middle of, I don't know if he was like touching something or whatever, but the volume pedal would just cut out. And so our worship leader had to come over and like reprogram it, and then it did it again. He's like, that thing's a piece of garbage. Why isn't like, I just rather have everything be discreet. So I don't know. Like obviously lots of people use them and lots of people love them.
Yeah.
I think it's
you have to get
case, it's really like a learning curve issue.
Yeah. I get what's going on over there, like having it and you guys using like, here, use this.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, I mean, the Line 6 guy at Germany was basically educated me on how to use the Helix and, did a good job.
Yeah.
I can't remember any of it now, but he ran me through it. I was like, oh, yeah, now that you show this to me in like 20 minutes, now I could totally get in here and make all my own patches and do my own stuff and understand all the routing and stuff. But if you just threw it at someone like, hey, you're playing today, you're using this, like it would be perplexing.
Yeah, and to my worship leader's credit, he has said like, if you want to come in, I've got all of my patches on it already. You can come in and use it. Yeah. And then you can like take it. You can like take it home with you to mess around with if you want to. So the thing that's funny about this though, and this goes back to what I mentioned at the top of the show, is I kind of like, so I put together that Keep It Simple Stupid rig for Teletalks, and it's a Timmy, a 1981 Inventions Drive.
Right.
A Caroline kilobyte, so delay. So it's drive, distortion, delay, and then a Quiet Theory Prelude, which is a delay and a reverb.
Okay.
So this board is reverb, 2 delays, and 2 dirts, basically.
Yeah, and you can stack those dirts for your like a high gain sort of thing.
And then I've got my Palmer pocket amp on there, which is a direct box, all-in-one sort of situation. This doesn't have an XLR output. It does have cab sim though. So my board, this 4-pedal plus interface board, was real quick $950.
Right.
This Line 6 HX Stomp is $600.
Is it 600?
It is.
Did
600.
you confirm that?
I was able to. Somebody posted a screenshot from Sweetwater has them on sale now, and they had a discount code for Sweetwater. So they were like, I could get this for $500 because it was like a 15% off.
I mean,
thing.
I'll say like at that price point, this makes way more sense to me than the full Helix does, and that's something I was discussing with. I mean, here's the point I'm trying to make that I was discussing with the Line 6 rep when I was at Thomann. It's like I like to use pedals.
Yeah,
I like to use stuff that's like new or does something unique that the Line 6 Helix will never do because someone invented a new way for like a phaser to work or something like that, or like a fuzz with a really quirky setting on it. I like to use things that have various specific voices where like I could use the loops in the full Helix, but I'd much rather have something like this that can be incorporated to my existing board.
Right. Well, and this still will do for...
And at that price point, that's like 3 pedals that I would normally get.
Yeah, and this is still has 4-cable method.
Yeah, it's got a loop in it.
So you can still...
It's got stereo through.
You can pretty much use it as like a normal kind of a...
It's got
you can use it however you want. You can use it in the middle of your board. You can like...
It's got an expression jack.
You can run a fuzz and then into this thing and then into your modulations in the loop and then back into this thing and then output to your thing, to your...
I mean, and with...
I keep saying thing.
Yeah,
output
your
it
thing.
to your,
your thing.
Put it in your thing.
Put it in your thing. That's the title of the show right there.
So, it's there's a lot of options there. Obviously, the thing that weirds me out about all of it is it only has three switches.
Yeah. And I don't see... people who have already used the Helix probably already know how it's going to work, but I don't see an intuitive way to like switch through patches and banks,
right?
As it is right now. So it's like, do you have to have like a scene selected or like a bank selected, and then you just have control over those 3 settings on there, or like, are you holding things down to go through banks?
Yeah, there's a knob that is labeled page, which I would think is what allows you to like scroll through. But
you don't want to do that live.
Exactly.
So is it like a one and done sort of thing? You set up your one sound and that's what you have. I mean, for $600, it's not the worst thing in the world. But that's my big question, and I'm glad you hit on that. Is like, can you bank through settings? How does that work? So that can you select different sounds song to song or within songs? You know, I know that you with what we're seeing here, just with the screen grab, you can turn off a delay or turn it on in a harmony, but and like the tap tuner and stuff. But I want to know about the rest.
I think I'm guessing. If you have,
and are you going to need external foot switches to bank through things? Like, can this do it?
Would that be like, I mean, if you have like the MIDI, if you have like a MIDI controller, you get into that whole thing.
I don't want to do that. I mean, those are the negatives to me. And
we're saying that these are potential negatives because we don't actually know.
But here's my big negative: is the learning curve with this. Where like I kind of like my pedal board to be kind of stupid,
right?
In the way where it's like, I turn that on, I know what it's going to sound like. I do this, I twist that knob. If something goes bad, I just yank it out and stretch a cable over. Where like you kind of have to learn the language of this Helix stuff. Or any multi-effect these days, really, these multi-effect supercomputer floorboards that you get.
Right. So just from looking at a couple different screenshots, I have a feeling the way it's set up is you're basically building a chain of effects,
right?
Which are the different colored dots that you see on the LCD screen.
Yeah. Well, that's how it is on the full Helix.
And then you have just a specific couple effects in that chain that you can turn off and on, and the rest of them are just always on.
Right.
So the idea is that if you're building scenes, for lack of a better term,
that might be what they call them. I think
set,
one of these systems does use scenes as the terminology.
I don't know if that's this one. Pages, scenes, whatever they call them. That basically you would say like, okay, for this song, I'm going to use this sound, and I'm going to have like a foot switch to turn the fuzz on and off because I want fuzz on the chorus but off, but otherwise I'm using everything the same for this whole song. Like I'm only changing this one thing out. So maybe if you're doing like if you have songs where you have like 12 effects that are not even 12, like if you have more than 2 or 3 effects that you need to turn off and back on a single song, then maybe you're limited by this. Because you only have the 3 switches. Yeah. I don't really know. And this product literally dropped today.
I'm sure other people already know how the system works because they're already familiar with the Helix, and this is just such a dumb topic for us to be talking about. But it's like, I don't know, maybe I think it's a legitimate concern for us to like wonder how this thing functions and how it'll function in a set. Yeah. Like I had the M5, and just its user interface was non-functional for me, and so much of it was non-functional for me in a like live sort of setting, the way I use stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something about this where I'm just like, yeah, I wouldn't really use it. But then on the other side, like this thing is a good size. The dimensions look good.
Yeah.
Barely bigger than a normal double-sized pedal. Mm-hmm. Does a crap ton of stuff for an attractive price. I thought the amp models in the Helix, when I got to mess around with it, sounded very decent.
Cool.
Lots of good sounds in there. I mean, the only thing I couldn't get it to do that I'm partial to is, the spring reverb sound.
Right.
But I've got all sorts of pedals that do that now, and this can work on a board. And we're both running direct now when we play at church.
Yeah.
And like the amp models would sound better than what I'm probably doing now with the new X.
What are you? You're using that for it to go direct?
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we should get one of these and mess around with it.
I think there was a lot of people who have been Helix curious, but kind of turned off by the price point.
And also, it's like I think that
would do something smaller that would incorporate into their rig.
Right. I think that's the intimidating thing too. Like, I mean, the meme in the different groups we're in, or the joke, it's like, oh, selling all my stuff to get a Helix.
Right.
We're like, I don't think most people want to sell all their stuff or replace their entire rig or their entire board to get a Helix. They want to still use the stuff that they like, and they want a Helix. And so this is for that person.
Yeah.
And it makes a ton of sense. And that price is pretty dang good.
Yep.
If it has the functionality, if it is $600, I'm sorry, that's tempting.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it was on Reverb for 600. So, or not Reverb, on Sweetwater.
Yeah.
So I know the original Music Radar price I think was $840.
That's probably.
But if Music Radar says
MSRP
$840
or whatever,
that might have been MSRP. So.
Or it's in
no, because
some foreign currency.
They listed US and
really?
And I think either pounds or pound sterling or euros. So they did list 2 prices.
Interesting. Yeah, I want to see how this develops. I want to see videos of people using it. Maybe we'll get one and figure out how to use it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be cool. Could be cool. Oh, do we want to jump into other stuff? I was thinking about backtracking.